So, vlog. Tuesday here after President's Day. Hope you guys had a good holiday weekend. Back into the regularly scheduled programming of running a high growth, venture backed startup in a challenged economy, in a business sector that is out of favor in the IPO markets, meaning all of our bigger competitors and established peers are down in the markets, and this is true for many industries. Lending capital is tight, reinsurance capital is tight, venture capital is tight for everybody. And so that brings us to, today, February 20th, 2024, the reality of running a company in a tightened environment. I will say this. We just finished, so we moved all of our Monday meetings to Tuesday because of the holiday. And many of us still worked on Monday, but we just did a no meetings day, just in case you're curious how to play it as a startup. A lot of times we will observe. We will just have no meetings days on the big holidays, but still work. Of course, we have flexible PTO, so you can take time off whenever you want. Yeah, that's the general thing. And then on the big holidays like July 4th and Christmas, we're like closed, including our phone lines and stuff. But anyway, we typically do our skunk meetings on Monday, which is the 5 most senior leaders in the company talking about everything in the company. We just did it today. We typically do our all hands on Tuesdays. So today we did our all hands followed by our skunk, and then shortly here I have our marketing team meeting and so on. But we were just talking about how we are much better as an organization and as a company today than we've ever been. And even though we had a lot of painful moments in the back half of 23 in particular, downsizing, pulling back our marketing spend, switching technology platforms and redoing contracts and all this other stuff, it's just terrible to go through. But on the other side of that, I can say our culture is really strong. Our leaders are showing up. Our product is much better than it's ever been. ¿Qué más? Our numbers are smaller now than they were at some point in 2023. But here's the thing. In order to produce the numbers that we were in 2023, we were burning 5 times the amount of cash and with like double the ad spend, right? So sometimes top line is not all it appears to be. So we went through a very painful recalibration period where right now we're actually producing slightly less, but similar levels of top line growth on 4 to 5 times less the amount of burn. So we're dollar for dollar incredibly more efficient. And that is not just because we have less people. It's also because our technology is better. Our self-service capabilities are better. When a new member joins, on average, people would have to call in 4 to 5 times in the first 2 weeks because our app, pretty much sucked, to be honest. But now the app works. You can sign in easily, which I know sounds silly, but sometimes sign in is actually difficult and clunky and stupid. Like, you ever been on those old apps where like you enter in your password and you never remember what your fucking password is, and then you do a forgot my password and the email doesn't show up in the right inbox or goes to spam, and when you click it, the forgot my password doesn't work, and then you finally get it to work, and then you try and log in and it doesn't work, and you're just like, oh my God, and then you got to call in, you're fucking pissed already. That's what our single sign-on server was like, because we just had an archaic provider, so we built our own. Now you don't even need a password. Now you just click that. You click a link, boom, you get an automatic text sent to your cell phone, and you know how when you click enter the code and you tap the box and it automatically pulls whatever is sent through your text box right into your thing. So you can just one tap, boom, automatic fill, boom, boom, boom. It's just like super fucking easy. Sign on is no longer an issue. Before, payments used to be an issue, believe it or not. Payments of all things, right? Like that's the lifeblood of a company is your revenue. Before, it just was like a nightmare to pay because it was a nightmare to log in, right? So like you needed to log in, which we lost a lot of people there. And then once you were logged in, then payments was like in the app, but it took you to a web page and you had to re-enter your credit card information every time. It's just a nightmare. But now it's super seamless. We power it through Stripe. It remembers everything. It does it on a recurring basis. You can switch payment methods as needed. You can make micro installments. You have flexible billing, like easy. Then the next thing was claims. So obviously we're an insurance company. So whenever somebody had a claim before, we actually had a third, which is somewhat common for smaller companies. You have a third party provider. Basically you outsource the claim. So if you ever were in an incident, a crash or something, you called Loop, but on behalf of Loop, we had another company handle the situation, and they weren't that good. I mean, they were okay, but they weren't that like they're not as good as Loop. And so we just needed to be at a certain size before we could justify bringing that in-house. Now that's all in-house. So if you have a claim, it's a Loop representative trained by us, works full-time for us on our systems, on our technology. We can see the claim real time. We can, based off of the data on your phone, we know exactly where the claim occurred. You can take photos right from your phone. It uploads straight to our adjusters. If the claim is below a certain value, it automatically gets digitally appraised and paid out. If it's a suspicious claim, our fraud team, a high suspicion claim, or not a straightforward claim, our adjusters and fraud team reaches out, which leads me to a whole other thing. There's a lot of fraud in insurance, so we've had to get very good at just like catching fraud. Sometimes a lot of people in insurance will like have a crash already. Like they'll get into a car crash without having insurance and then try and find a startup that they can stiff. You sign up for a policy and then you say, oh, I just got into a crash. And then we have to pay it because, if we didn't, maybe I shouldn't even be saying this, but that's how it goes. And so what we had to do is just get really smart about catching fraud. So if you were likely to be fraudulent, we'll catch you before you even sign up and reject you. And so all of those things we've gotten much better at. And it's very true that smooth seas never made strong sailors, I guess is what they say. So feeling very good about our efficiency dollar for dollar. Now in a startup, you're always challenged by capital availability. But I think that it's a little bit like having limited life. It's like if you don't have that long to live, then how are you going to live your life? That kind of thing. Like think about that in your life. Like if you had 2 years to live, a year and a half to live, you're going to live your fullest, right? You're going to ask the girl out. You're going to climb that mountain. You're going to do all the things that make you feel alive, make you feel good, spend time with your loved ones. And so in a way, having too much runway and visibility breeds complacency, dilutes your focus, and it's certainly a good thing to have a long visibility and a big balance sheet when you're a big company, if you preserve some of the rigor from when you were younger. Otherwise, you have the complacency, and eventually you get disrupted and you go out of business. Just easy, happens a million times. The best is kind of like an Amazon. It started small with that rigor, that focus, that limited cash, and through discipline just grew big and maintained that discipline and then have the balance sheet. So anyway, to bring it all the way back to a startup, I think it's fantastic to have limited resources to execute the vision and the mission. You need to have enough runway and enough visibility, and that's a challenge too in today's market. But I'm feeling good about where we stand, as good as we're gonna feel kind of for a startup. But what you don't want is just either too little runway and then you have to make super short-term decisions and you can't really bring the vision to fruition. And you might not even have enough time to quota. You don't have enough time to yield the results. that's the worst feeling. And that's, every startup CEO, including mine's fear is, dying on the vine, i.e., you have everything built and everything's ready, and then like you just don't have the time to really materialize the results. And then less commonly on the other end of the spectrum, you raise a mega round and you kind of just coast and you lose your complacency and you're living off of a salary of your financing. You're not living off of the company doing so well because of what you sell. So you see that a little bit less often, but you do see that. So anyway, today we had all those types of discussions. We're feeling really good. We had a great all hands meeting. We finally nailed the cadence of the all hands. So before, we had them super frequently every week, but we got some feedback that even though we were having the meeting very frequently, it didn't feel like we were actually communicating valuable information. I.e., people were like, well, where are we? Like, what's our goals? Like, how long are we towards those goals? What do we have left? What are the challenges? What are the risks? Like almost like an investor report, really. And so we retooled the all hands. We made it less frequent. Instead of every week, it's now every other week. And I think that helps because having a super high quality production, because that's what it is really an all hands, like a big show, or like a big news segment, or something like that, is difficult to sustain at a high level on a weekly basis unless you have full-time people dedicated to it. So it was now every 2 weeks, and today we switched. It's like every other week. So since it's every other week, once a month we do an MBR, which is a monthly business review, and we just walk you through what our goals are. So for us, it's great loss ratio, which is underwriting profitability, certain target on growth, and then a certain target on retention, because that measures the satisfaction of our members. And so those are our 3 goals. Where are we on those goals? Who has contributed towards driving those goals? We thank them. And stuff like that. And then the next all hands will shine a spotlight on an initiative. So numbers don't move themselves. You need action to drive numbers, and we call that action initiatives. So just to break down a few business terms. So your big goals that are 2-3 years out, like reach profitability, that's an objective. That's the big goal. And then you get into the key result, which is how you measure that goal. So if the big objective is to reach profitability, the key result would be your EBITDA, right? That's the number that you're watching. That's the stat that you're reporting back to the company and your investors. But the EBITDA doesn't move on its own, right? You need initiatives, so action that drives the key results that gets you to the objective. So anyway, I know it's pretty corporate-y speak, but it is good to have these common language and tools to align the company so that you can all speak the same language and march towards the same thing. So anyway, the best all hands we've ever had. I think everybody's as clear as it's ever been. I think people are energized. I think people are recommitted to the cause. And our app experience is so much better, and I feel great about it because it takes the focus off of sign-in is broken, all this kind of stuff, and we're now at a place where we can focus on the mission, which is why we all signed up to do this in the first place, which is to drive good. That's our tagline, drive good, which I love because we're driving good is like a car insurance pun, but also we're a B Corp insurance company, right? Like we exist because people get taken advantage of in insurance and financial services, and we create a more equitable way and fair way to price people that basically doesn't take advantage of them. So that's why our tagline is drive good. So anyway, gotta hop to a couple more meetings. Got my workout in, woke up at 5:30, did a full body deadlift, squats, overhead presses. Got my jug of water for hydration, got my jug of milk for calories, and take a few more meetings. Check back with you in a bit and keep it going. All right. End of the business day here. So we're going to get going here shortly. Ended up opting out of some meetings that were on the calendar. So As a CEO, you pretty much have the privilege to opt in and out of meetings. Some of them are required. Some of them are required that you be there because you need to make important decisions or support whatever's going on. Others, you may want to just pop in just to let people know that you're paying attention to stuff. In this case, our leaders are doing a great job running their teams, and I could use the time for some heads down work. So that's what I ended up opting for. So right now, we are really, honestly, rocking and rolling the type of work that I'm doing now. And some of you may empathize, but sometimes you have all of your leaders that you need in place. But I've found in startups that's actually typically rarely the case. A lot of times you have vacant seats, and whenever there's a vacant seat, well, it becomes the leadership's job to fill that role. Essentially a double job. So right now, we have a number of different vacancies at the leadership level, probably that we won't fill for some time. So for example, you don't often need a COO type of person. So Carrie, my co-CEO, fills that kind of role. We don't have a CFO, right? We have a fractional CFO right now, and so he's able to pick up a lot of the work, but not all of it, right? So you've heard me on this vlog talk about reporting out to stakeholders. That is a very, very intense bit of work that needs to be done on a recurring basis. And we have a lot of unique reporting requirements. So it's lenders, it's reinsurers, it's investors, it's employees, it's the public. So that typically falls a little bit on me. So I took advantage and got some of that done. If you tuned into the New York City vlog, you would have known that we are in talks with a potential strategic partner. Not merger and acquisition, nothing of that kind, but a good strategic partner that could potentially augment our efforts. And so anytime you're trying to wrangle a deal to close, there's a lot of data requests. So, hey, let me see this information presented this way. Let me see that information presented that way. So just staying on top of that. But mostly, honestly, it's one of those rare days where everything, for the most part, is on the rails. And when you get those days, you gotta take the good with there's plenty of bad, so you gotta take the good when it comes. Today is just one of those days where everything's running smoothly. It's not that things aren't hard. It's not that, we wouldn't love to have a little bit more resources, but it's rather that we've calibrated the size of the team and the operation and the workload to what we have, and we're still probably climbing out of some kind of deficit, particularly with call volume. Our call volume is super high right now. Our claims volume is super high. However, we staffed up with some temporary assistance to work through some of that backlog, and so we're nearing the point where the backlog of ticket volume, and these are things like, hey, I need to change my policy details, I need to add drivers. These are things like old claims that we have yet to finish resolving. We're climbing out of that, and pretty soon we're going to be in a place where we're only dealing with net new claims, net new ticket volume. And of course that means that all those extra hands, some will keep full-time, others will probably flex up and down as we need them. But really the great thing there is we'll be in a position where all new volume is being handled super quickly. And so, you dream of, as an operator, getting to a place where your experience is good, you're acquiring people at a reasonable cost, people like what you sell it for less than you sell it for more than it costs to make, and those revenues are sticky because people, retain. That's like the whole game. So if you hear me repeat a lot of the same things, it's because it's pretty much all we think about is, good margins, selling things on a repeatable basis, growing the book of business, retaining members, delivering a good experience. It's those things over and over and over. And there's always a lot of things to work on. And so your job is, with your limited team and resources, to prioritize, okay, well, what needs to tweak now? This, that. What can we afford to put off? What can't we afford to put off? And a lot of times there are fires because you have a critical issue here and there and there. You can't get to them all, but eventually you work through them. And, today is a place where I think I'm going to call the vlog Running Smoothly today, because, we're in a calibrated place where we're exactly where we want to be. So kind of an uneventful one today. I know you guys probably prefer when there's a little drama. It's more entertaining. But I prefer when things run smoothly. So that about does it today. As you all know, I'm in my new digs in Allentown. I'll show you guys. I got just a little, it's just a little, like literally a little office. It's just one desk in here. I get a view of like this little courtyard area, which is fine. It's kind of the downtown of Allentown. And then, these smallish cities don't really have a lot going on, but it's kind of like a little shared office space situation. But really nobody comes in. I haven't seen anybody come in. This looks like a nice office, but they're always empty. So literally I'm just here. There's like a little printer area. Kind of just here by myself. I mean, the shitty thing about COVID is that everybody, I guess it's a good thing everybody works remotely, but if we were all in one place, for example, this whole floor would just be loop and it would be busy and we would be active, and I miss that. So I think sometime in the future we are going to try and do a in-person loop situation again. It just doesn't make sense to at the moment. So we'll just keep our heads down, everybody locked in where they are, keeping the energy as best you can. And then when the world is ready for it, because you can outpace, you can outpace the world if you're ushering in an innovation, let's say. If the innovation is so good that people adapt it super quickly, like AI. But on things like behaviors, COVID just fundamentally changed the way everybody expects to work, and switching the pendulum back to office has had so much inertia because it's not necessarily better for people. You got to be in the car, you got to drive, insurance costs, gas costs, you're away from your kids, from your family, you're sitting in some uncomfortable ass desk, and then when you're there, you're probably on Zoom anyway. So it's had a lot of inertia. And anyway, we found a way to crack company building without being in person, but I look forward to when we can and kind of do have the in-person vibe again. But until then, I, like many of you, are just rocking it out solo. Yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm not super productive working from home. So wherever I am, even if we're not all in the office, I try to at least just get a little office just for myself. So with that, hope you enjoyed the short vlog today, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.